I don't think it's good to idolize that or to aim for that. I think there are much more sustainable, healthy, and this is going to be a little bit ironic. Here I am getting Costco gas, which I keep telling myself not to do. I guess today was fine, I didn't have to wait, but waiting 5 minutes to fill up gas is not a good use of your time generally, unless you really need to save $2. But anyways, today we're talking about 3 things that every young car enthusiast needs to know, and I wish I knew some of these things sooner. So speaking of money, numero uno is that you don't actually need a lot of money to enjoy cars, despite what society at large tells you. And allow me to explain. Growing up, I had a PlayStation and I played Gran Turismo 1 through 5 religiously. I was obsessed with it. Now, was I fortunate to have a PlayStation? Sure, but let's be real, it's $100 at the time, and the game was another 20 or whatever it is. Very, very affordable to enjoy cars, and I did enjoy cars, and I would watch videos on cars, and I would draw cars. I was obsessed with drawing cars. I was known as the kid in school that used to draw cars, so much so that I would draw cars for other kids in middle school, and they would pay me their $2 or $3 of lunch money for the drawing. I remember a Saline Mustang I drew in particular, and then a teacher found out I was doing it, and she said, "Kevin, you're not allowed to do that anymore." She squashed my budding career as a future car designer. But what I'm saying is that there are so many ways to enjoy cars beyond owning your dream car, right? And even as I got older, when I could drive, I would drive my mom's Camry or whatever car I was driving to the car meets. You don't have to park next to the Porsches and the Lamborghinis and whatever. You can park out on the side and then walk over to the car meet. There's a lot of young guys that think that if you don't have a cool car, you can't go to car meets. Do what you want, man. I did that for several years and never had any negative attention from driving a non-enthusiast car to the car meets. And even when you do start driving and you have your own car, it's okay that if you buy an enthusiast car, it's okay for it to be used or cheaper. There's nothing wrong with that in the slightest. In fact, the first car that I truly owned as my own was a 2013 Scion FRS. And I got that when I was 22 years old, towards the end, or actually right between the first and second years of medical school. And the car brand new was $24,000. All right, it's not an expensive car. And now you can buy those cars used. And buying them used, I mean, they're super affordable. I think I sold my 2013 Scion FRS with 75 or 80,000 miles for 13 grand. Dude, who does this Audi driver think he is? He keeps turning left when he's not in a left turn lane. Don't be like that, kids. I'm actually convinced, this is gonna be a hot take, controversial take. I'm convinced that the twins, especially in the second generation form, are the most rewarding and fun driver's cars south of 60 grand. Not south of 30, not south of 40, south of 60 grand. Yeah, I kid you not. I would rather drive this than a base Cayman, because the base Cayman without the LSD, you can't get that same level of rotation. These cars come with a Torsen limited slip differential. They come with a great 6-speed manual transmission. Everything's just so good, so dialed in, and they're affordable. You can enjoy cars, you can enjoy driving at a very reasonable entry level. Now, even when you have your enthusiast vehicle, you don't have to upgrade all the way to track days. You can enjoy that vehicle at a much more affordable price point. The most obvious of which is canyon carving, driving on public roads, but don't push it too hard. Be safe, please, because a lot of you guys think you're better drivers than you are, bad things happen, and then your car's sideways in a ditch. So practice humility, enjoy your car on the canyon, but if you want to actually push it and understand the limits of, oversteer, understeer, then do autocross. That's how I learned, and I think I started autocrossing in maybe 2014, did that for maybe 4 or 5 years, and that's how I learned a lot of handling oversteer and understeer. That combined with Gran Turismo and the very basic arcade level sim racing games. But autocross is something like $40 to $60 per event, and the wear and tear on your car is so minimal that it's not really adding much cost to your regular ownership, because each session is 30 to 60 seconds, and then your car cools down again. Whereas on a track, you're doing 20-30 minutes of constant, really high temperature, intense lapping. That puts a lot more wear and tear on your car. Number 2 is to start slow and build from there. And that comes across in two ways. The first being when, as you progress with your driver skill, don't just go 0 to 100 and crash your car, right? Practice that humility, slowly ramp up. But what I mostly mean is to approach buying your enthusiast cars and driving fast and all that stuff in a slow stepwise progression, because if you just go out and buy the craziest, fastest car that you can afford, or that you think you can afford, you're actually going to unintentionally hinder your own development. There are so many dudes, I kid you not, so many dudes at the racetrack who are getting overtaken by me, and they're driving Porsche GT3s, GT4s, Turbo S's, cars that should be doing 5 seconds, 10 seconds a lap faster than this. There's even who drives a very recent GT Porsche. So this guy is, more advanced, and he laps 1 second faster than me on a lap where it should be several times that. And that's not his fault. Like, he's not a bad person. He's not dumb. He's not a shitty driver. It's that he set up the environment to hinder development. And that's largely because society pressures us to buy the hottest, sexiest car. So if I want to be in shape, and I then live in a house that's full of candy and ice cream and junk food, and I don't have any vegetables and no protein powder and no lean meats and no vegetables, then what's going to happen? I'm probably not going to be nearly as healthy as I want to be. So it's not just about the person, it's about the environment that the person finds themselves in. So if you find yourself in the environment that doesn't allow you to progress at the same rate, it's not conducive to learning, you're going to end up being a shittier driver. I accelerated my driver skill improvement, and of course I still have a lot to learn, but I improved at a very rapid pace. My instructor at my third ever track day at Hooked on Driving at Buttonwillow, driving an E36, really hardcore caged prepped car, told me at the end, he's like, "Oh dude, I was like, you're like going really fast out there, like how long you been doing this?" And I said, "Oh, this is my third time." He's like, "What?" He's like, "I'm embarrassed that it was so hard for me to catch you." He eventually overtook me, but he was like behind me for a lap or two. And he's like, "Wow, I'm embarrassed that it took me so long. Like, kudos to you, keep it up." And that's not like, oh, I'm such a great driver, because when I look at myself now compared to back then, there was obviously a large skill gap, and I still have I'll be saying the same thing in another couple years. But what I'm pointing to is the fact that by having the slow car and driving it fast, I could push the limit so often on autocross, and once I got comfortable, yeah, as you guys can see, I do sometimes push it on the streets as well in a safe environment, and it allows me to understand the car's limit and improve my driver skill at a much faster progression. When you just go get the fastest muscle car or whatever car you can afford, and then you suck at driving, you actually slow down your rate of learning. You're not going to become as fast of a driver because you can't approach the limit as frequently, as easily, as safely. And the last point is drawing attention to the false dichotomy between being a personal finance super stingy guy versus someone who enjoys life. And there is a middle ground, and you can totally find that and achieve that and enjoy cars while still not being stupid with your money. There are so many young dudes. I just met a young dude in person. He had a nice Supra. He's working at a place where he's not making much money, and I know that car is north of 50% of his income, his annual income. It's probably way more than 50%. It's probably like 70% or more of his annual income. And that's just not a smart financial move. You can enjoy cars at that cheaper price point and not actually put yourself in a negative financial situation. So what I did, I told myself, I am not replacing my 2013 Scion FRS until I buy a house, until I buy an appreciating asset. I'm not going to buy another depreciating asset, which is a liability, which is a car, right? So I kept that Scion FRS for 9 years before I bought the 2022 GR86. 9 years. And I remember at year, like, I don't know, what was it, 6 or 7, once my business started doing well, my mom was like, "Hey, Kevin, when are you gonna, upgrade your car? You always liked BMWs as a kid. Are you gonna buy a BMW?" And I was like, "No, Mom, I really like this car, and I want to first get a house before I choose to upgrade this vehicle. And yeah, I'm not gonna get a BMW. I think that based on my priorities, I want to get a cheaper car and a car that's a little bit more engaging to drive. And I got a GR86. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that cars are going to come and go. You'll drive a different car in 10 years than you drive today. most likely, especially if you're a car enthusiast. You'll probably have many different cars between now and 10 years from now. But the one thing that no one can ever take away from you is your driver skill. If you focus on becoming a better driver, you will get, every time you get in a vehicle, especially when you push it, you're gonna get so much more joy and pleasure from the experience. And no one can take that away from you. But if you buy the hottest, latest car and you don't focus on your driver skill, and then you lose that car, you can't afford it anymore, you downgrade, you get a family, you gotta have a boring CUV, whatever it is, that's now taken away from you. That source of joy is lost. So focus on your driver skill, because it's the one thing that compounds with time. If you just improve 1% every day for a year, you are 37 times better, not 3.65. No, I'm not saying 1 times 365. No, I'm saying 1% compounded, the compounding effect. And we talk about that with finances on my Kevin Jubbal MD channel, as well as Med School Insiders, my other 2 YouTube channels. But the compounding effect is so insanely powerful. As Einstein supposedly, or maybe not, once said, compound interest, or rather the compounding effect, is the 8th wonder of the world, because it's, humans were not designed to, we didn't evolve to think logarithmically, exponentially. We think linearly. So it's so hard for us to even understand the level of improvement or gains that you can see with the compounding effect. Guys, the reason I'm making this video is, in recent years with the rise of YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, and more of our content coming from these sources, more and more of it is about how hard you can flex and what car you're driving, what supercar. And I think it's just a bad value system. I don't think it's good to idolize that or to aim for that. I think there are much more sustainable, healthy, and rewarding ways to enjoy cars that don't just come down to consumerism and buying more and more shit. Just to put things in perspective, I'm soon to have 3 cars: Lotus Emira, Mazda CX-50, and a Toyota GR86. And could I swap out some of those cars? Maybe get a Porsche this, BMW that? Yeah, sure, if I wanted to be more flashy, but that's not where my values lie, because I don't think that's a healthy, sustainable, or intelligent way to prioritize the way that you enjoy cars. So I still plan on driving this, or maybe an S2000 or Miata or whatever, a cheap FR platform that I can just rag on with low limits, beat the shit out of, and not have to worry about. And the last thing I want to leave you with is the idea of having rules to govern your consumption when it comes to cars. Because as car enthusiasts, obviously we're going to spend more than we otherwise would if we weren't car enthusiasts. So you need to constrain that to make sure you don't actually have your car enthusiast passion and hobby fight against your other financial goals, right? So think of systems, think of rules, think of guidelines that are going to be different for every individual based on their priorities, based on their job, etc., etc. But I'll just give you an example that maybe can get you started. So when you're younger and you have a negative net worth like I did, student loans, etc., very common thing, then just focus on getting the cheapest car, either a cheap new car or a used car less than X number of dollars. Maybe it's $15,000, $10,000, whatever it is. Do get a safe car though. Don't skimp on safety. Don't be driving a 20-year-old Toyota Corolla because it's super cheap, but it's not going to be the safest thing if you get in an accident. So there is a bit of a balance point there. But then as you start earning money, you have an income, you start paying off your loans, then look at buying a car as a percentage of your income. So I think some people say like 30% or 50%, or I don't know. Those seem way too high to me. I would be conservative because, again, compounding effect of money, right? I would be conservative and have a lower percentage of your car, the value of your car be a lower percentage of your income. And then once you start saving for a few years and now you have 100K in the bank, or shouldn't be actually be in the bank, it should be in investments like low-cost ETFs, index funds. I'm a big fan of the Boglehead's Guide to Investing. Then you can do it a percentage of net worth. So that's one way to approach things. Obviously, it's going to be a very personal decision, so do what works best for you. But my friends, I hope you found this video helpful. More of an unstructured, rambly, opinion piece type video. Let me know if you enjoy this type of content, and I'll make more videos. Much love, my friends. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in that next one.